Well, I said on Twitter before the show tonight that this was a must-win game for the Black and Red, and as must-win games go, a 4-0 defeat at home to one of the worst teams in the league. And that's potentially not even the biggest talking point in this game.
That's barely scratching the ice there, John. There was so much going on tonight.
We are coming on the air here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. I'm John Lee, joined by Sam Kastner and Joshua Morgan this week. Michael Black is out, and probably for the better, to be completely honest, because that was not fun. We are going to hear, we just had word, we are going to hear from both head coach Ben Olsen as well as Captain Steven Birnbaum here in just a few minutes. Where do you guys want to start on tonight's game?
I don't know. It's hard. I mean,
I just want to address that. I am smiling because of the absurdity that we just watched. I thought about it right as the countdown was going down, 3, 2, 1. I was like, should I put on a sad, disapproved face? Like I'm feeling that inside as well, but also I can't help but smile and laugh at just the absurdity of tonight.
I mean, we broke a record.
I mean, yeah, you got to give credit where credit's due. This team not only had an impact, locally, but on Major League Soccer tonight, because it is very rare when you make a substitution that you can't make, and we got to break that down, because I think all of the things went wrong there. Like I don't think you can pin that on any one or even group of individuals. Everybody got it wrong when it came to that, but you can't ship 4 goals at home in a game that was really must win if you wanted to try to stay alive in the postseason.
And then go down
against
a
a
man.
Vulnerable team, and you go down a man late.
There's so much.
Somebody's got to cue up the Twelman. What are we doing?
I know.
Clip, because
Any
that's
one
just
of these
what
things would be enough to talk about, but I think that's why we're like struggling right now. So I mean, if you're listening live to us right now, like let us know what you want us to talk about first, because it's just a lot. But yeah, I mean, we're going to hear about the whole substitution situation, I'm assuming.
Ben's going to has to address
That's got to be the first question.
So as far as we understand right now, Russell Knaus was subbed on at halftime. He was not on the roster submitted to MLS. So he was initially given a red card. Pro got in touch with the referee. I'm not sure who initially pointed that out to the referee.
Yeah.
But once it was brought to his understanding, he gave Russell a red card. Pro said, no, that's not what you do. So essentially Russell had to come off and go into the locker room, and Kevin came on, and I think it counted as a substitution window, but it didn't, but we still got all 5, if I'm wrapping my head around that craziness.
Yeah, it basically, I mean, at one point the language was actually used. I think Ben was like, so he didn't exist, basically, and then that was basically, kind of how they played it. But I mean, questions have to be asked. I tweeted it out, during the game on the official graphic that the team used to show the starting 11 plus the team. Russell Knaus was in the squad, and we were not in the press box tonight, but folks who were in the press box, Black and Red United, I think it was Jason Anderson who was there tonight, tweeted out like he's on the sheet I have in the press box. And so whatever thing was officially submitted to the league was different from what was given to media. And
well, you saw something from Goff, right? That it said that Earl Edwards Jr., who was in the stands tonight.
Yeah, that was just an update here.
Yeah.
I guess he was in the stands but was named on the roster, and Knaus was not named on the roster, but obviously everybody on the team, including him and the coaching staff, thought he was, in the squad.
Which was essentially last week's roster, which I think is probably what happened. I don't know, speculating right now, but
I mean, my frustration tonight started as soon as the roster was, or the starting 11 was released. I mean, not only should Russell Knaus have been named in the squad, he should have been named in the starting lineup.
Yeah, the rest of that was a mistake.
I don't understand. And you could have started him at 2 positions, like you say, right?
I think, he could have started in midfield for us. He's a safer bet than Nyman. I love seeing Nyman out there. He's probably, what is he? He's 16. He's not ready to start MLS games. Anyways.
Well, I mean, at this point, he is. The season's gone now, so you might as well. I mean, from here on out,
if you're trying to win, you don't start him over Russell Knaus, who is fringe U.S. men's national team player. And then he also plays right back, where I think he could have performed better than COA today. I'm sticking with the abbreviation because you guys who have listened know that. That whole story. And I think Russell is probably, I don't know. I think maybe the media has gotten to Ben. I'm not including us in that chat, but Have the questions in the press conference about just playing the youth gotten to him? Because it seemed that's what he did with the lineup today.
I don't know, but he's definitely been very insistent in every press conference we've heard so far that he would not be playing the youth if they didn't deserve to be on the field. And he's not just like throwing them a bone right now. He's been very insistent that they have been performing in practice, and he's going to always put the team on the field that he thinks has the best chance to win us the game. And if that includes a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, then that's what it's going to be. But he's not just playing the kids. He's playing the roster to win.
And I love that attitude.
Same.
I just don't think it's being implemented correctly. Because here's the thing. How do you... I mean, put aside his recent form, right? But Gressel didn't start last week. Olsen even said afterwards,
besides the team's form,
right? But he said, he gave Yao the start because he felt like he earned it. Yao had a golazo at the end of the game. The week, the I don't know, couple days prior with the way time is nowadays, right? But like, I don't understand what it was tonight. And let's say that Yao might have had a slight edge just with how he's been playing. But I mean, Gressel's obviously got a bigger upside. Gressel's playing Atlanta, the team where he spent his entire MLS career before coming here. Start him. Why would you not start him?
It was a point in the pregame press conference 2 days before, and we live tweet every time those pregame press conferences. Someone asked, I can't remember who, but someone asked, does this give Gressel an edge? Will he find a spark playing against this old team that he was so successful for? And it's baffling. I broke down to you. He's also a player that can play in multiple positions. He can play right back, right mid, and he's played in the midfield for us. It's just surprising to me that he couldn't find a spot. And this is where it got to me. Oh man, it's so early in the show, but this seems like a team that is being mismanaged now. That is straight up mismanagement.
I mean, between that and the substitution, yes, those are textbook mismanagement examples. I don't know what to do there. And if you thought, okay, fine, this we got a shot here, and this is the team that's been working hard together all week in practice, right? And it's been a full week, and I even said that earlier today to you guys of like, I was feeling somewhat good before the lineups were released of like, it's been the first like full week off these guys have had in a long time. Like they should be coming in fresh. They're playing a team that's not in good form, and you ship a goal in the 4th minute. Yeah. So I'm not buying that this was everything's been gelling in practice and this was the starting 11 and everything's good to go. You don't concede in the 4th minute like that. You know what Atlanta's going to throw at you. It's nothing special.
Well, it normally is, and that's just how bad this was. This is a broken Atlanta United team. They also don't have their DPs right now, and they also don't have a coach. And so it was really, really bad to see that. Man.
We joked with our friends at Black and Red United on Twitter at halftime of, I think they said that this Atlanta roster tonight looked like an early rounds of the Open Cup roster, and I'll tell you, man, I think Loudon would have got on the board. I mean, they might have shipped 5 or 6.
Mustafa would have gotten one,
right? I mean, I just the total lack of creativity in the attacking third was abundantly clear again tonight. There's just no. I don't even know what the plan is. I mean, for the entire first half was go down the right side, whether it was dribble down the right side or long ball down the right side or cross down to the right corner, and then it was either Griffin or it was Chris Duyacham, and it was like, okay, let's try to create some space and then spray a cross in, and I don't know, maybe Kamara will be home, maybe Reyna will be home.
They weren't, though.
Probably not.
I mean, also because it was really just the two of them in the box with not just the Atlanta defenders, but also their midfield who'd come back. Like, it was a cross sprayed in, but it had to have been like pinpoint accuracy. And I love Griffin Yao, but I don't think he's going to hit those on a dime every time. And I mean, he didn't tonight. So yeah, it was frustrating. We didn't have that creativity up top. There were a couple times when you felt like maybe it would build, but I don't know. They just like really took advantage. And like you said, that goal happened in the 4th minute. I think we all like hung our heads a little bit, and man, I don't know.
Sam, who is always searching for the positives, can't find one tonight.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit right now.
I cannot wait for Ben Olsen's press conference, which is coming soon. I know all our listeners, especially tonight, want to hear Ben's thoughts. He will be up at the podium, as John said, and as well as Birnbaum.
Yeah, we're expecting to hear from either of them any moment. And I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last time we see Ben Olsen face the media.
He said it.
John said that to us multiple times, and we held him back, guys, because, look, I don't know. I don't want to jump the gun with that, right? Club legend.
That's not necessarily me saying he should go, although we can talk about that. But I don't know how you come back from a performance like this. Everything went wrong.
Oh,
everything from the start of the game to whatever that substitution mess was. Things weren't great this season to begin with. But I think now the question that I would expect ownership to be asking is, what could go worse?
We saw, because we kept saying that today. What could go worse? Okay, that crazy substitution thing. What could go worse?
Well,
okay,
but that happened.
Brian gets subbed out, like gets a red card, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I would have serious questions for him about where he brings this team now, because we haven't seen progression this season, right? Like we've seen I have at least seen sparks of it in some of the games, sure. But overall, like every game has just it feels like gotten lower and lower, and it feels like the players are getting more and more frustrated. And I mean, something has to happen that has not happened yet.
Yeah, this is a new frontier for me. I mean, I've never been Olsen out.
Yeah.
You hear it a lot from this fan base, and I understand why, but I've always been a stick with your coach kind of guys, make those changes in the offseason, have somebody in mind to come in, don't pull the trigger too early. I've also never been this far in last place. I wasn't around in 2013, right? So to me, this team's on track very clearly to finish last. You're not going to bring in a great new head coach or even a permanent head coach this season if you make a change. So to me, the question is, what do you lose by getting rid of Olsen and having a Chad Ashton come in and just be the caretaker manager for the rest of the year?
So I don't disagree, but just to play devil's advocate, because last episode after the last game, we were like, yeah, but a lot's not going Ben's way. Like, who can expect that half your starting lineup is going to be injured right now, right? So, like, I just want everyone to, in the room and in the comments too, we'll chat about the comments, but I just want you all to verbalize like what makes this different in your eyes.
And so I've stood by it, and we made the argument last time that it's not just Ben, it's the organization that needs to change. And I know a lot of people in the chat and on Twitter were like, oh, the stream is broke, this team doesn't care, they don't want us to watch the games, they're that bad. That's not true. There are individuals in the team in the front office that care very much.
This team has a lot of awesome people that work for it.
They really do. They really do. If you read any, there's athletic articles about Rory doing great things, and the movements that have come out of DC United are really great. But it is an organizational problem for the soccer right now, and I don't think it starts and stops with Ben Olsen. But like John said, what do we? I don't think we gain anything by keeping Ben on for the rest of the year, and I don't think we lose anything either by letting him go, except it's going to hurt a little bit, at least.
Yeah, and I his contract when he signed a recent extension actually does, I think, guarantee him a role in the front office or something like that. And I'll be honest with you, rock on. I don't have a problem with that.
So that's been a thing that Ben has been asked about leaving DC United for a long time now. And he's been kind of blasé about it. Like he doesn't. Yeah. He was like, basically, he was like, I don't care if I coach this team. I'm serving this role, and so
yeah.
Man, I don't know. Maybe that's for the best.
I mean, and I think we're about ready to go to the press conference, so we'll keep a keen eye on that. But if I'm Ben and I get fired, I think I've done everything I could. And I don't know that the next person up is going to have that much more success with the hand they've been dealt. And I think that's going to be telling whenever it happens. If it's this season or a decade from now, it's going to be interesting to see if the next person in has much different success. And I think we're about ready to go to the press conference. We want to switch over?
Yeah.
Let's do that now. All right, we jumped the gun there a little bit, guys. We're very excited to hear what Coach has to say tonight, and we're also operating a man down on the show tonight. So normally Michael Black has got a keen
much like
ear
DC United tonight.
Ouch! But we do expect to go there in any second. But Sam, one of you guys was saying something before we jumped over. if I recall correctly.
I wanted to. Someone said Ashton is part of the problem. I think John said Ashton just because he's the next heir. But speaking of which, Ben is at the podium now, so we will.
Ben, could you explain what went wrong with the Knaus substitution? Who was at fault and how it all went down?
I'm not going to go into who's at fault, Steve. I don't know what that does for anyone. But I was informed that he was not on the roster and that we had to remove him from the game. And obviously I wouldn't have taken Moses out if that was the case. And then we kind of had to adapt and put Julian in there. And that's what happened.
Thanks, Ben. We'll go to Jonathan Siegel next. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hi, Ben. Just a quick follow-up on that. What explanation was the ref giving you guys? There seemed to be a lot of back and forth and confusion. Just curious what you can share about that whole sequence, which from afar was admittedly very confusing.
Well, I was confused as well, Jonathan. And all I can tell you is that I was informed that he wasn't on the game day roster. And that was a surprise to me, and that I needed to take him off. They were working with the league to figure out whether that sub counted or what to do. I don't think they had that scenario, that refereeing crew, officiating crew, and they were trying to figure out with the league what happens. Again, as far as does he come off, does it count as a sub, does it not count as a sub, etc.
Thanks, Ben. We'll go back to Steve Goff. Steve, go ahead.
Ben, you've been, you've tried to stay optimistic during these hard times about turning this around. How is your level of optimism and your outlook after what unfolded tonight?
It's a fragile group right now. You could see that after the first goal. And, I thought beginning of halftime, it was a good response. And kind of the game went a little haywire there, and we had to make some strange substitutions. But yeah, just again, we're fragile. We're a fragile group emotionally right now, and we are, from a soccer standpoint, not very good either. So it's a bad combination. And what we can do right now is be a better defensive group and be tougher to play against than we were tonight. And we can stay together. And I've been down this road once or twice before in my 10 years, and it's not an easy thing to get out of, but it's possible. And but we need to start acting and playing in a better way, both sides of the ball, being mentally tougher, being more combative, and just frankly have more quality, and of course, better coaching. That's always part of this, and so I'll it's on the staff as well, and myself to put the right group out there, and we're doing a lot of changing, whether it's personnel through injuries, a lot of structure changing, and it's been not the easiest year for the guys, but I'm confident that they will stick together, and we'll lick our wounds and try not to feel sorry for ourselves, and get back out there and try to change course here.
Thanks, Ben. We'll go to Nick Negrini next. Nick, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Good evening. This is Nick Negrini from Pulse Sports. So we're wondering about you already lost 2 games at home. Also, the Peruvian players were calling to the national team, Edinson Flores and Jordi Reina. We know that Jordi Reina is going to start on your lineup in the last 2 games. How are you going to make the decision for them? And also, if was a surprise for you to get the call from the national team for Edison after his injury? Thank you.
Well, yeah, we don't have Edison cleared right now. Yes, I was certainly surprised on that. And I don't make those decisions on call-ups. I got enough to worry about right now with the group and trying to steer this team in the right direction. So that's a management decision on what they're going to do with that.
Thanks, Ben. I don't see any other questions. Appreciate your time.
Well, one of the things we can always count on from Coach is an honest assessment of what's going on with the team, and I don't think he held back a whole lot there. We've heard after the past couple games that spirits are still high and that they're optimistic, and we didn't hear that tonight. He said the group is fragile. You saw that after the first goal, and he admitted from a soccer standpoint, we're not very good, and that's not a good combination, and he even called out, everyone, including the coaching staff, in part of that. So a pretty frank assessment from Olsen tonight, and as we get ready to hear from Steven Birnbaum here in a few minutes from the captain's perspective. But guys, what are your takeaways?
I mean, he didn't provide a way forward, and I don't know that it's just objectively
2 questions about the substitution and 1 question about the international call-ups, which, by the way, is a whole debacle in itself.
Yeah. What's
going to be happening here in the next few days. And it was one of the points I made to you guys venting my frustrations pregame about the lineup is you're about to lose half these guys, potentially, probably, to international call-ups. I mean, why wouldn't you give them more time tonight? I guess one lens on that would be, okay, we play this lineup here and then we sub those guys in if we need them, but just building continuity, right? You've got more time with some of the folks that are going to be available for the next couple games, but it kills me. And I don't know. Am I the only one that felt like tonight was must win?
No, I agree. I think it was at least must play better, right? I would have even been okay if we'd
we're gonna put that on t-shirts. Must play better. I like it.
I mean,
always applicable.
Even if we'd come out and played well and strung passes together and had creativity up front, we'll get back to it. I think we're about to go live to the press conference.
Yep, let's cut to Steven Birnbaum.
Try to get through some. I'll give it just a minute. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to Steve Goff first. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, Steve. What are your thoughts after not just the result, but the way it unfolded, and what the mindset of the team is at this moment?
Yeah, I think this has to be turning point for us. I mean, this is one of the worst losses I think I've been a part of. One of them, and it's kind of been trending in that direction. So, we have to come together right now, look each other in the eyes, and know when we don't play well, and hold each other accountable, and try and figure out a way to fix it, because we only have a couple games left to do anything this year, and we can't keep playing like that, because that was pretty miserable.
Thanks, Steve. We'll go to Jonathan Siegel next. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. This is Jonathan Siegel from MLSsoccer.com. The substitution incident with Canals just after halftime, how did you observe that as a player, and what impact, if any, do you think that had on the match? Because it was very confusing from afar, and I'd imagine there's some sort of influence on the game.
I mean, I think I've never been a part of something like that, so I'm not really sure what the rules are or whatever. But obviously, I don't think we would have made that sub if we knew, whatever happened, because we didn't really have a center mid after that. I don't think that played a part in the way the game unfolded. I think that the way the game unfolded was due to our mentality as a group and the non-collectiveness. And I don't think that played a role in it. So, if that answers your question.
Thanks, Steve. We'll go back to Steve Goff. Steve, go ahead.
Steve, Ben said this, this is a fragile group right now, and allowing a goal in the fourth minute really had an impact. Would you concur with that, or how would you assess it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely plays a factor. I mean, I think if you look at our past games, I think we're mentally a little soft in that way because we're not scoring a ton of goals. So we feel as if it seems like if we get a goal scored on us, it's tough because goals aren't flowing for us right now. So we're struggling to score, and obviously tonight we were struggling to defend. But I think it takes a toll on us as a group when we can't score a ton of goals, and if one goes in, then we're chasing the game, and it's already tough from the beginning if we haven't scored a ton.
Thanks, Steve. There's no more questions. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Well, some serious ownership there from Steven Birnbaum, but it raises some questions, man. He said this might have been the worst loss he's ever been part of, and said it's got to be a turning point. But
it is. I think it is. Someone brought it up in the YouTube chat early in the show that this one feels worse than that LAFC game that we all thought both teams were top of the table. We thought we were hot shit going into that game, and then we got beat 4-0, down a man too. But this feels worse because of the way the season's gone for the team.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that LAFC game was bad. But that was back when we had like hope and a chance and a roster that I believed in. Like those things are long gone. But I mean, yeah, it's
so is it the roster you don't believe in right now?
I don't believe in anything right now.
Okay.
I mean, on paper, I think this is a good roster, but I'm just as dumbfounded as I assume the coaching staff is as to why we're not getting anything out of it. I mean, obviously there's a lot of injuries. We talked about that, but come on, man, you can't ship 4 goals to Atlanta at home. And the biggest problem when we talked about it during that, and Steven even brought it up, this team can't score. So as soon as you concede, which was all the way in the 4th minute tonight, the game's kind of over at that point. That's where I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah, sorry, I came in hot right there.
No, we were boosting everything because Steven was real quiet on the press conference.
I think he was the most raw I've ever heard him. You can usually count on Steve to be a DC United man through and through and to be very polished and believe in the system. But yeah, for him to say that this was one of the worst losses he's ever been a part of, for him to say that even like that whole substitution debacle, he was like, that's not why we lost like that though. Like that has no bearing on the rest of the game really. Like, I mean, I think it's good that he took that ownership, but it's not enough, and we've seen all season that it's not enough to just be taking ownership because we've heard players frustrated before now.
I really don't know. I wonder if he got to hear the Olsen interview, or where Olsen said they were fragile, because hearing that as a captain and a player of a team,
I think he agreed with it.
Yeah, he agreed.
Like, I don't think that was news to him.
Man.
I mean, he is much.
For me as a fan, hearing that the team is fragile right now is not great. And like Just said, we haven't won a game in which the other team has scored since Miami, since we were allowed to be there. Just how long ago that feels.
Yeah, which I mean, calling a spade, like we've only won 2 games, so it was kind of quick to cross-reference the 2 wins. But yeah, it's. And I don't know. I mean, here one thing to keep in mind, though, is like, think how fragile this fan base has been for the past few months, right? I mean, I guess I wasn't as surprised to hear that the locker room is now a little bit.
We were surprised to hear that it wasn't up until this point. Because we've been hearing week in and week out that the locker room is fine. We're a little rattled, but, we're going to wrap our heads around it and go into the next game. Sorry to cut you off, John, but I just wanted to point out that this is I think we all assumed that was the case, and then every week we heard that it wasn't, and we were a little bit like, okay, at least for me, I was like, okay, maybe this is where we get to turn it around then. Like, we haven't lost the
I don't know if
locker
I
room.
believe them. I know that's what they should say in this situation. It is surprising to hear them acknowledge that they know that they are, I don't know, bad, I guess.
Tonight was the first night that I think was just completely devoid of any positives. I mean,
I know.
You look at the NYCFC game that a lot of fans really wrote the team off after, and you can at least say that they kept a clean sheet and they performed very well defensively. You can trash everything else and be right, but they at least did that. I don't know what went right tonight, guys.
What do you take from tonight?
It was interesting to me, too, to hear Steven say that potentially if they had known that Knaus wasn't on the roster, they would have left Moses on, which that was my question in the moment. I was like, well, if the sub kind of didn't happen, can't he just come back on the field? But I saw, I don't remember who it was, but someone on Twitter kind of at seeing that substitution was like, was Moses the issue in that first half? Like, I was a little bit surprised to have seen him taken off.
Moses and Yao were taken off, and I felt like they were maybe Nyman was good, but Yao was the best player on the field as far as effort.
So what do you expect Knaus to bring to the offense then? Because that's not what we know Russell for. So why do you think that sub was made?
I think it was part of the recovery plan for Russ. I think it was like, he was still nursing, his hamstring that he hurt? And he started against Nashville and got himself taken out, but even Olsen said he was coming off at halftime that night anyway. So I think he was going to get a chunk of minutes tonight regardless. I think I know I would have started him and taken him off at halftime if that was my plan instead of the converse here.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I don't get it, but the crazy thing to me is just looking through some stats here. Atlanta obviously scored 4 goals tonight on 4 shots on target. Their expected goals were 1.62. DC United 0.35 expected goals tonight. And they didn't go down a man until, the 88th minute? It's not good enough.
I don't think we had a shot on target the whole game.
We did not have a shot on target the entire game.
We made Brooks Lennon, an MLS veteran who's been passed around a couple teams, at least, look like a world beater. He had a goal and an assist and just blew apart our defense before halftime. I don't know. I'm seeing comments. John, people are asking you to defend your thoughts on this good roster. Besides the homegrowns, Hamid, Birnbaum, and Areola, who else would you keep, I guess, is the question?
Well, I mean, so starting at the top, you've got Hamid's, to me, still a world-class goalkeeper. I think the center back pairing of Birnbaum and Briant, while Briant's at the end of his MLS career, if we're being honest, they're typically not a problem, and you've got Donovan Pines coming in, so I felt pretty good there. Outside backs, Chris Duyacham's obviously coming into his own. He's better attacking than he is defending right now.
He had a bad game tonight.
He did.
He had a bad game defensively, but he looked all right offensively.
That's not,
and that's not what you want out of a right back, for sure. But I don't think all around he was trash tonight. I think he struggled defensively. And I think he put in probably the best cross of the night from about midfield. And to me, the problem is a guy like Ola Kamara. What's the excuse, right? On paper,
don't understand.
Of all people, Joshua, right? You said 20 goals this season, and I didn't think that was that crazy. I don't know if he's going to get to 5.
How many does he have?
Will
right
someone
now?
on this team
2,
get to 5?
I think. Probably not. The team might not score 5 in the remaining 8 games.
I'm going to come to John's defense. I don't think it's necessarily a roster issue. Obviously, it's unrealistic
it's
to
not
say
a good
that
roster.
DC.
I don't think.
I don't think it's a bottom
bad
of
roster.
MLS roster,
Yeah,
though.
and that's the thing.
That's
is
fine.
Also you've got Fish on the bench. I thought that he should have gotten the start today. You're Gressel's man, dude. You have Gressel, who should have probably had a better impact. I don't think this is necessarily an MLS roster winning team, but I think that it's a lot
MLS
better
Cup
than
winning roster. You mean?
What did I say?
MLS something.
Okay, apologies.
Just go with it.
Yeah, MLS Cup winning.
I was tracking.
Apologies for that one. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's the best roster in the league
No.
by any stretch of the imagination, but I also think
think
that
it deserves
it's a
to be
decent
last.
roster. Exactly. I think that it's a roster that I could show up and watch every week if it were if they're playing better than they were
they
now.
Should be
and
better than this.
It's not out of the realm of possibility to expect that they would be better than this.
It's a mismanaged roster. I don't think we're seeing the potential. Look, guys, I understand. It's easy to say this is a bad roster. That's quick, easy. You can just disregard all the talent the players have. But Ola Kamara has scored double-digit goals for multiple MLS teams. I've said this so many times on the podcast. This is annoying, but I'll just go through that. Gressel is a very good player in MLS. We weren't the only team trying to get him from Atlanta, and he was MLS Rookie of the Year, had multiple assists every year, won an MLS Cup. Reyna is a good player. He was on a Vancouver team that is very bad. He's been very good for us since we acquired him.
Yeah, he has.
I can keep going through the list. Assad was a world beater with Atlanta too, and come on,
he played well for us the first time around, and obviously, we're just talking about players that are available right now. I mean, you've got Flores was a colossal disappointment this season, but I don't think he got a whole lot of consistency under him, right? And then he's hurt right now. Paul Arriola missing is a massive dent in this team for sure. And we've talked about those guys coming back, but all this is to say this is not a last place in MLS roster, and I firmly believe that.
Which is a little bit.
We got Chris to come around, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Thank you to everyone for listening to us, because God bless if you watched the game and then you wanted more afterwards.
We agree that there is so much wrong with this team right now, and I don't know.
I would love to see.
I want to figure out with you guys what is wrong exactly, and hope that the team addresses that.
Completely agree. I would hope to see some significant signings in the off season. I will agree. Like, having been a DC United fan, I was super excited to see Assad come back. But even in the moment, I was like, I don't know that he's the answer though. Like, going into this season, we knew that we needed forwards who were able to finish. Then we brought him in, and I don't think that
he was brought in to replace Stiebler. Who we paid $1 million for a couple of years.
Yeah, but come on, man. Who else could you say? Zoltan. I mean, that was cool, right?
That
was at least worth some money, right?
I think there's a guy from Sweden that could have done that. But
yeah, wow.
So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a roster issue, but also if you've listened to any of our shows in the past, you will know that I come from the point of view that like the onus is also on the players, right? Like, yeah, potentially management isn't putting them in the best situation, but also if you go down a goal, like, it's on you to be mentally tough, and it's on you to mentally bring your team up, and that's a hard thing to do, but it's also, you're all working, you're all doing a job, right? And sometimes you just need to be positive, and you need to figure out how to pick yourself up. We've all made mistakes in the workplace, right? And we figured out how to pick ourselves back up, and there's nobody in this locker room who looks at everybody and says, like, pick it up. Like, there's nobody who's able to lift this team and able to give them a burst of energy or give them a burst of confidence. And like, from that point of view, yeah, that absolutely is on the roster, because it only takes one to look at everyone and say, like, this is unacceptable and it's stopping now, because they kind of all go out in the field and they're like, oh, well, let's see what happens tonight, right? Like, you heard Birnbaum say we went down a goal, and the whole team is kind of like, well, there went that game. Like, that's unacceptable, especially from your captain. And I understand where that's coming from, but also, like, anybody on this roster can look at everyone else and say, like, cut it out. Like, cut the shit. Everybody needs to pick it up right now.
We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And Sam, I think this is the most agitated with the team we've seen you this year. And I love to see it.
Agitated? I can't be positive about it.
I know. And we, we're hearing a lot on YouTube, and you can always text in or call in using our call-in line at 202-892-6328.
Is the gulp in reference to the size of text message you just received?
Yeah, this is... well, I think it's a very fair point. Olsen called out the team for being, quote, frauds after the Nashville loss, and we didn't see much of a response last week, and then all of a sudden now they're fragile, and it's like, well, where is it? And where's the accountability, for the coach is the text we have here. It's quite lengthy. I don't want to read it all, but basically calling for, hey, at what point did the players say, we got to get this coach out of here, we can't do it with him anymore? I mean, I don't think this is the locker room that's going to do something like that. But it's an interesting dichotomy to me between a couple games ago, players are frauds, and now they're fragile. And
it's not great. And that's what I said about Birnbaum. Maybe not. He agreed, but also that's not what you want to hear about your squad as a group. And when we saw in Atlanta, they got rid of Tata, or they lost Tata, and then they brought in a coach that didn't have the same kind of ideas and thoughts about how the game should be played, and they didn't immediately get rid of him. They suffered for about a year or so with a coach that didn't align with what the team's mission was, with the players at all.
Saw the same thing.
Yeah, it took. Are you talking about Chris Armas? And yeah, he was there a long time. So I don't think a locker room is able to flip a coach like that in this league.
I agree. I hear what you're saying. I think that a locker room can prevent it being a 4-0 loss, though. Like, you watch these games and you can tell that the players don't think that they have it in themselves, and that's not on a coach to figure out. Like, that's on yourself to figure out too. Again, we've all made mistakes in the workplace and figured out how to turn it around, right? Like, we've all seen our friends go through hard times and been there and picked them back up. So I think that it is a little bit on the players.
When you lose 4-0 at home to another team that's as close to the basement as you are, it's on everyone. And I think we saw that exemplified tonight, even with the substitution issue, right? I mean, and we talked a bit, like, you know, this organization's taken a lot of cuts over the past year or so, which makes it really challenging to stay afloat off the field as well. Mm-hmm. But guys, is anything going right for this team right now?
And that's my point, I don't think it's on everybody. I'm not trying to excuse the coaching staff. I'm not trying to say it's just on the players. I'm trying to say that it's not just on the coaching staff, though, right? It's absolutely on everybody. Like you said, it's probably also the fact that DC United has taken a lot of cuts. You know, a lot of the staff has been fired due to COVID issues. That was a big news thing that everyone was chirping about on Twitter. So it's probably also very hard then when you see your friends getting fired around you and everything like that, and then everyone who's left has to take on a little bit of a larger load. I'm sure it's just hard all around, and that partially makes it on everybody.
You've heard our thoughts. We want to hear your thoughts live on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. You can text the show or give us a call at 202-892-6328. That's 202-892-6328. We're also up in YouTube and on the Twitters. And we have a comment in here.
Oh, no, I was pointing down to the phone number.
So look at that. I appreciate it when you put it on the screen. It makes it less likely that I will muddle through it. You know, it's funny. We have a fan texting and saying, you know, hey, Talon could still lift the team, which raises another question. Why don't we at least see Talon in the stands? I mean, of all the scandals with this team.
I think we learned tonight we could have gotten 4 minutes out of Talon before Perot realized.
That's right. Could have potentially brought him on. I mean,
oh, man.
It's not great.
Shambolic is the only word that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think we've gotten to the point in the season where we are just putting kids in the positions and we give them passes as fans because they're actually children. But any professional soccer player that should be filling that role should not be making the mistakes that's happening out there. I don't think Talon, if he's still like employed by this team, would do a better job. But
well, I caught myself in the first half. You know, Nyman made a bad play, and I was like, "Come on, Moses, you're better than that." But then it's like, well, is he? I mean, he's only 16. But then I pause and I hear what Olsen tells us regularly, and we'll finish that thought here in a second. We've got a caller. Good evening. You're live on Tried and True. What's on your mind?
Hi. Yeah. This is Dennis calling, and I just wanted to say how frustrated as a DC United fan I am tonight. The poor performance, you could see them since the 4th minute, which, you know, it was the game was not even streamed. And I was, as a fan, I'm thinking maybe they don't want to stream the game because they don't want to see how embarrassing they are and they don't want to get us riled up as DC United fans. But then brought the match up, you know, back up in the online, saw that the kids that were playing, like Yao and Neyman, are getting crushed in the midfield. So the moment that you see that your kids cannot play games like this kind of, you know, these tough games, you put your defensive midfielders like Gressel, well, which Gressel is defensive, but like you put people who can like stand up to that kind of playing roughness, because remember, you got to play your kids when you, like Philadelphia Union is doing, when they know, they figure it out, they're winning 3-0, they play their kids, they win 6-0, or for example, you know, just like an example.
Yeah.
But the management cannot, like, you cannot be calling out your players like that, calling them frauds, call them fragile mentally and also lack of football skills. Because as management, you choose the players that you want for your roster, which again, it's also so embarrassing that what DC United went through today, showing the whole MLS that we can't even put in a roster. Like, it's like mess up our roster. They probably just fill in the last roster because we just saw the same lineup from last game. And they just probably, they didn't do their job well. Like, it seems like you guys are saying, like, it's everyone's fault, even management, players, coaching. It's just they're making, this legendary team, this legendary franchise look so poor. Like Nashville crushed us. Teams like that are just new to this game, to this league, are crushing us, and it's unacceptable. Like, there has to be major changes from management. I think, like you guys are saying, this roster is a good roster it's not an MLS winning roster, but it's at least a playoff roster. And right now we're like bottom of the table. So just very frustrated. And one last thing to say, Olsen out.
Well, hey, thank you so much for the call. I think you speak for a lot of the fan base, really, with kind of where we're all feeling here. A couple things that just immediately come to mind, and we've talked a little bit before on the show, but the union model is one of the best in MLS at developing young players and bringing them in. The only small thing I would contest about what you said there was I would love to sub our kids on winning 3-0, but good God, we can't even score a goal. So getting to a lead and then bringing your kids on is obviously a missing piece for this team right now. But I think that's the model.
One thing. Go ahead.
We talked about that before, and I think the conversation ended with that. But I was like, it's not good to put these kids in the position where they're 16, 18. Going against MLS veterans and losing. But like John just said, we don't have any other option right now. We're not winning games by a lot or even taking leads in the halftime or the 70th minute. So you got to play them or just sit them, and I'd prefer to play them.
Yeah, you're right. I appreciate Dennis calling. I think we all share in a lot of his frustrations. One of the first things he said, though, that I wanted to touch on that we haven't touched on yet in this podcast was the fact that the stream was down for DC United. I saw a lot of frustrated people on Twitter, rightfully so. But I think people got maybe a little conspiracy theory
It's the world we live in nowadays.
About potentially thinking that this was intentional from DC United, and I just have to say that I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think as we've mentioned, a lot of people have been let go. The people who are working for the team are pretty stretched thin. I'm not trying to make excuses. It was pretty unacceptable that fans couldn't watch the game. But I will also say that, like, it's not up to DC United. It was up to WJLA. They're the ones who said that this game was blacked out on ESPN Plus because they're the people that we have broadcast rights with. And the
streams worked great all season. I mean, this was the first time we've had a hiccup.
Let's remember Flow last year. Like, that was a lot worse.
Right. I mean, luckily we're not paying out of pocket for this stream, and
so it was very frustrating. I understand. Absolutely, fans should have been able to watch the game. A lot of people have cut the cable cord. You can't go to a bar and watch it. So I completely understand that people were just kind of left. We had it up on the Spanish ESPN Plus, which
apparently became blacked out at some point in the night. I saw some screenshots on Twitter. We must have got it up beforehand, and they didn't pull
we were on that and then switched over right when the DCUnited.com/stream came up. So I completely understand the frustrations. I'm not trying to take that away. I'm just saying that I don't think that DC United thought that fans shouldn't watch the games. They were trying to cut it.
Related to this, but someone also asked who was responsible for that match roster that was improperly sent up, and I subscribe to the belief that you cannot delegate responsibility. You can delegate the job, you can delegate the task, but you can't take responsibility. So the stream not being great tonight, it's up to the ownership. They need to hire enough people or better people or improve the people they have to get to the point where we don't have those problems anymore. The streams have been great. It's great that they decided to do that this year. They could be better. Love having Dave Johnson on. Let's not take the things that we have for granted, but yes, let's acknowledge that it could be better and not try to find some DC United staffer to blame.
Yeah,
for that.
and I have to assume that like many people look at that roster before it gets
Right.
submitted, right? Like that is a very major important task. So whoever is the one who actually hit send on that email, I'm not trying to say that they need to lose their jobs, right? A lot of people would have had to have proofread that.
I would put that on Ben Olsen needs to check that before it goes up.
Well, in the entire coaching staff, right? Like how does a player sitting in the dugout or whatever we're calling that area now, right? Warmed up, went in the locker room at halftime.
No, he was not in the locker room. He was on the field warming up.
Then he subs in. I mean, to me, the buck stops with the fourth official on letting the substitute happen. I mean, I'll be honest. I've never refereed in soccer. I umpired Little League baseball a long time ago. Very different. But I guess I don't know a whole lot of the other jobs the fourth official has when a substitution's happening, other than to look down and validate that the person they want to bring on is on the list of, 7 to 10, depending on pandemic or not, players that could come in. So a lot of that to me, like it never should have happened, right? It should have been like, no, you can't make this substitution. But within the team itself, yeah, how many people see that? It's not a one person thing. Come on, this is a team, and that's the problem right now is that nothing's going right.
I think there will be an investigation. I think DC United will be fine, which is going to hurt on top of all of the. We are the basement right now.
Yeah,
so
I think I had seen that this happened to FC Dallas, which I jokingly said we broke records. That this is what I was referring to. Apparently, that's not even the case right now. But yeah, I think
can't even break records, right?
But I think it had happened to FC Dallas, and they were fined $100,000, even when the referees said that it was partially their fault. I think it was just the headline that I saw. I don't remember who tweeted it out. I feel like it was on Pablo Mara's little thread. I don't remember if he was the one who did it, though. I think John's looking for it.
I think he was.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for it here.
I'm trying to stall for you.
I appreciate it. There was basically a point in time here where the FIFA ruling, I think, is if a substitute is made that's ineligible, it's like a 4,000 Swiss franc fine or something, because we can thank our friends in Switzerland. That's where FIFA headquarters are. But I mean, I don't know what the current exchange rate is, but that's not $100,000. It's not even close. So I don't know like what happened in that FC Dallas situation for it to be that much.
Impose their own fines
I guess that's
as
true.
well.
But not great. But I think right before the call, and again, the phone line is still open if folks are out there and want to get a little something off their chest, 202-892-6328. We're here for you. But we were talking about my frustration with Moses at the beginning of the game, and kind of caught myself like, this dude's 16, like, go easier on him than you would some of the other players. But then I hear Coach Olsen telling me after all the press conferences that, Sam, like you pointed out at the beginning of the show, he's putting in the best players, to win the game. So I don't know. Part of me is like, well, maybe I shouldn't be cutting the young kids some slack, because apparently they're better than some of the guys that we're paying, pretty penny for. Not that we've got full DP slots here, but they're certainly the guys that Nyman and Yao are starting over right now are making more money than them, and they've got a lot more experience than them. So I don't know what to do with that. When Olsen says that that's the best team we have to go out there and win a game, yet they're so young and they've got such a bright future ahead, and that's where I struggle too, of like, these guys are the future of the team, and I'm so excited for it. And there's a big part of me that's like, man, it hurts that it's here today, but the lumps that those kids are taking now are only going to pay dividends, next year and the year after, and as they continue to grow into this sport.
Yeah, and they're learning a lot about what it means to like be on a losing team and pick yourself back up, and what probably pretty sad locker room situations and feelings are. Like, I don't know. You're right. They are getting a lot of experience right now. Something I do want to talk about also is the red card that happened, because that is just 3, 4, 5, 6 on what went wrong tonight. But what do you all think? Because I think my opinion differed a lot from what I saw on Twitter. And I think John kind of agreed with me.
Joshua, I'll let you go first.
Oh, man. It could be a red card. He went in 2 feet, didn't get the ball.
Studs down,
2 feet, didn't get the ball. Kind of the last man. I don't know. It depends on your interpretation. The ref thought it was the last man. And he gets the call. VAR decided that was an incorrect call. and so the red card stands. I don't have a problem with it. I hope that Pines gets to play now, and maybe I don't understand why we're doing a whole youth movement and Pines is not starting over the 35-year-old.
Good point.
That is a separate issue. John.
No, it wasn't a red to me at all. I mean, look, it was a dangerous challenge. It was a foul. I could have lived with a yellow. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a denial of goal-scoring opportunity because there was another player back. It's pretty clear-cut to me. They gave a red on the field, so they look at it. Was it a clear and obvious error? To me, it was. There was a guy back there that could have made a play. You rescind the red, you give him the yellow, and you move on.
I agree. Steven was beyond the play, I think. Even, like, we were sitting there, and I think you two were looking down at your phones, like, on Twitter, and I was like, well, Briant just got a red. And you looked up and watched the replay, and you were like, no, that's not a red card. And I was like, no, I saw the red
Sarah's
come
like,
out
it
of
was
his pocket.
issued. And I was like, what?
That has already happened. Yeah, to me, it's absolutely not a red card. Who was that? Was it Assad at the end? Or Junior?
Assad with a scissor kick.
Yeah, that was more a red card, absolutely, to me than what Briant had. It wasn't. It was a stupid tackle. It was not studs up. It was not especially dangerous. And Steven was beyond the play and was making the cut in to be that second man to go for it. Absolutely not a red card for me. I think that was ridiculous.
Well, it looks like Major League Soccer has either released an official statement or at least a comment on the debacle on the substitution. They said the change which DC United made at halftime still counted against their allocation of substitutes and substitution opportunities. Major League Soccer will further investigate this situation. The player who entered the game was not listed on the official match roster. After 2 minutes and 16 seconds, the match officials recognized the error, which is exactly, these are my words, which is exactly 2 minutes and 16 seconds too late.
Back to the quote.
Back to the quote. The match officials recognized the error. The player was immediately removed from the field and replaced by a substitute who was listed on the official match roster. So, I mean, the shit show continues on this one, and it's beyond just the teams and the officials tonight. Then, because Major League Soccer was contacted. I mean, we had great audio on the local broadcast of the official tonight, trying to communicate to both coaches. They're saying they're on the phone with the league. They said that they clearly said that this is the officials, that the substitution does not count, and it was as if Russell Canals didn't even exist, right? And they brought someone else in for Moses, which. Fair point you had, Sam, of like, I don't understand why Moses couldn't have just gone back out there at that point.
Yeah, if it didn't count as a substitution, shouldn't Moses have returned to the field is my question.
Yeah, but at this point, for MLS to say something totally different, guys.
Because then how many substitutions?
Who's on first?
How many substitutions did we then have after that? Because what you just read from MLS said that sub counted, right?
Yeah, I think that's what the quote from Goff says.
So let's check the official. We'll check the.
Did
app
we have an
see.
extra sub then? Like, apologies for not remembering this off the top of my head, but I didn't think I really needed to pay attention to it, right? Because I thought that it had been solved.
Look, this is also an indictment on Pro, who we've had issues with. I mean, we had issues with them last game and the game before, and almost every game. They are not good. DC United is not good. MLS is kind of fun, though. It's weird. You get to see stuff like this every week.
So, according to the official Major League Soccer app, at halftime, Gressel came on for Yao.
Which is not a window, right?
It's not a window. They have updated the record to reflect that Paredes came on for Nyman, which is obviously not how it played out.
Okay,
so
but
that's two substitutions, still 0 windows.
And that counted at halftime because I thought at live the ref said it did count as a window still.
According to this game summary, they've got both of them at the 45th minute, so we're already off the rails.
So we're at 2 subs, potentially 1 window.
Yep.
Maybe a little half window.
We'll go with a half window. Sorga came on for Kamara in the 67th, so that's 3 subs, and to me, 1 window.
Yeah.
And then Pines came on for Reyna in the 87th minute, so 4 subs, 2 windows. So I guess based on that, they could have updated the ruling mid-game, and we just didn't know. And they were like, look, counts as a sub, counts as a window.
Which is nonsense. Mid-game and we didn't know. But also, I guess
none of it mattered.
It a little bit doesn't matter, because we didn't end up using all 5. We didn't end up using 3 windows.
And we lost 4-0.
Yeah, the head referee tonight was Joseph Dickerson, by the way.
So you're trying to call him
not one. No, I just happened to see it here, and I thought he did a good job of handling the chaos. I think his 4th official, Matthew Franz, let him down a little bit, as well as some other folks. But yeah, no, I thought the head ref did the best he could to sort out. I mean,
crazy.
You don't go through this in your referees, training class. Come on, this is insanity.
It is.
Guys, what do DC United fans have to look forward to? More minutes for Yao and them? Do we see Areola the rest of the year? I don't even know if it's like MLS roster possible.
I don't know if it's worth it to rush that. I mean, the U.S. men's national team.
It's been 8 months.
Is playing in the window. I mean, what does the table look like now, right? Like, what are our realistic playoff hopes? Like, how many guys can we get back to make that push realistic? Like, I'd almost rather him sit for the rest of the season and not really push anything, or maybe get like a couple minutes at the end just to get comfortable playing on the field again. But I don't know that I'd want him to really rush to be in the starting lineup if we're already down for the count.
Yeah, as far as the table and at the peril of our streaming quality, I'm pulling this up. So hopefully we're not going down here. We're holding this league up as the bottom. We're the foundation of Major League Soccer, as one could say. We are now 6 points out of a playoff spot. And actually Nashville has a game in hand. Montreal do not, though, so we will stay 6 points clear of a playoff spot with 8 to go, which is craziness because that's so totally achievable with 8 to go, but all evidence to the contrary based on what I've seen on the field this year. So it's not going to happen, but it is still somehow there for the taking.
Which a little bit, just to tweak Joshua's question a little bit, you said, what do DC United fans have to look forward to? I'm just saying, what will we see in the future? I think it was Goff that reported earlier this week that Olsen's seat is a little hot. I think he had said that ownership.
Stay tuned to that drama?
I'm saying. I'm posing a question
yes,
to you
we
all.
should do that. Go ahead, Sam.
That he kind of said that if Olsen didn't make the playoffs, then he was likely out. Do you think that? And then I saw a lot on Twitter today was people saying, like, what is the worth of having him continue with this season?
I think that might be us saying that. What is the point of having Olsen continue?
I saw it tweeted out.
No, man, I don't want to say that. Yes, watch as Ben Olsen is fired. But if you've been around this team for any part of the 10 years that he's been here, this is uncharted territory, right?
Maybe it's not Olsen you're fired, but he's also, he's been very vocal that the team believes in him, and his strategies and his tactics. So maybe it's just a realistic conversation with him that you got to switch something up in the next couple of games, or this is coming down the line. Like, maybe it's not Ben that's leaving, but it's a very real switch in his tactics, and we see a different type of team performance on the field.
So, look, the three of us and the four of us when Michael's here, like, we're not elite soccer analysts by any measurement.
We're not paid to do this.
and unfortunately, we're not paid enough to do this. In some weeks, there's not enough beer in the world to do this. But do you guys think Jason Levian can analyze this better than we can? There's no tactics. Are you kidding? I mean, what is he looking at saying, like, oh, what you've been running out there the past few weeks, like, maybe if we just tweak that, if they can tell us what we've been doing for the past few weeks, I would love to hear it. So to me, I don't think there's anything to save here. I mean, we talked about it even before we thought the seat was as hot as I think it is now. Commit to something and do it every week. Win, lose, or draw, and we can all get behind that.
I think we have done that, and the fans are not happy.
What have we committed to, though?
Benny Ball.
I don't even think we've done that.
Say that.
It hasn't even been
We can't
gritty.
even defend.
It hasn't been gritty.
Which I think is part of what saved us last year, right? Is like we were a little bit playing the same way. We didn't have the offensive options, which is what I had wanted to see in the window. But we have one of the best defenses in the league. And for whatever reason, that is also collapsing right now, which is sad.
What I was ferociously trying to Google here, and I couldn't find it because FIFA's website sucks. But to me, what we have to look forward to is the transfer window, because I think in theory, we should have some new leadership in this team. We should have a new coaching staff, and that will be the first opportunity to really make some moves, because Reyna's been fun to watch, but these other signings, you got to be, this is the thing to look forward to this year. It's over. Right?
So that's what JRAG on YouTube said. I'm looking forward to a fully healthy roster. a new coach,
Check.
and a new play style next season to bring some life back into the team and fan base.
Yeah.
And I think that last word drives home a point that just the wind is out of the sails of the fan base and the team, obviously. But it could change really quickly.
Yeah, and you know, I'm glad you said it can change really quickly because you know who's a fun team to watch right now? And gun to my head, I don't think I ever would have said this a year ago. Orlando City are fun to watch right now. And they look good and they're energetic and their shit's together and they're gonna go to the playoffs this year. Orlando City.
Yeah. Also Columbus,
first time ever.
who weren't gonna be a team like 2 years ago, are the best team in the league right now.
For sure. But at least Columbus has had history over the past few years. I mean, granted, yes, they almost died, or at least they wouldn't have died. They would have just picked up and moved.
That's a case of bad ownership.
For sure. But, I mean,
Relatable.
Orlando's had nothing going for them. And they made a coaching change. Well, they made 4 of them, I think. But they finally got it right. And now they're flying. That could be us. And I think for a lot of fans, something dramatic has to change at this point because I think when you saw Wayne Rooney come in and you saw him tearing it up with Lucho, all of a sudden the playoffs weren't good enough anymore. And I think even now that those guys are gone, we saw what could have been, and now we want what we should have had then. And we don't want just what we had then. We want more. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I completely agree. Case in point, bringing in a player who can be a leader and who can change the mentality of the team. And, we were not looking great. And I mean, granted, that year we were also building a stadium, and traditionally teams on the road don't do well, and we had all the games on the road except for 2 pretend home games. But he came in and he lit this team on fire.
Both of those home games were a blast, by the way.
They were a lot of fun, yeah. But he came in and he lit this team on fire, and he took the team on his back, and he showed us what a leader could do. And I need somebody to do that right now, which potentially we'll see in the window, right? Like, I guess we'll maybe bring someone in.
The other half of that whole away from home thing is that the teams surge at home in the last part of this season.
You're right. That was the asterisk I put on Wayne Rooney coming back.
And we didn't quite do that. I am positive for the change that will happen in this club. And it almost feels bad, but do you guys think this is the end of the road, or do you think we continue with this path?
I think I was when
I don't even want to say it.
Horrendous point after attempt that just went through. Sorry, we have football on in the background. I don't know what that was.
So back to DC United. I think that this is the end of what we have seen so far. I think whether that means we have a new coach, or whether that means we have new tactics, or whether that means somebody steps up, or whether that means we don't play the kids as much anymore, I think that this is a change of something.
Yeah, I think people like me were some of the last folks that were still holding on to, like, God, this would be harsh this year to Cannels. And before we heard the most recent rumor that the seat was scalding hot and had to make the playoffs, and even making the playoffs wouldn't be good enough. I think those were quotes given by an anonymous source to Stephen Goff. But before that, it was like, well, barring a streak of embarrassing losses, like, Olsen's safe. I give you a streak of embarrassing losses over the last 3 games. So it's nothing personal. It's never been anything personal. We love Ben. I love the energy he brings. I love the attitude he has. I
agree,
I think
but
he's dead.
Just to play devil's advocate, the factors that we talked about last week and all the factors that we've been talking about are still here, right? I think what makes it hard is that it's progressively gotten worse.
Yeah. And I mean, what I hear from the fan base, and I agree with as a diehard fan of this team, is like, it's not good enough to say we have all these excuses, to say we have players hurt. I mean, just it would be good enough if we're losing close competitive games. We're not.
You're right.
And I think that to me is just what's and this is new for me. I'm kind of coming to terms with this tonight, that I think we're at the end of Ben Olsen, but there's no fight in this team. There's no I don't see a way out of this. I mean, if tonight's game was 3-2 last second goal, the red card was a vicious tackle trying to secure some points, it's a different story.
Yeah. even if it's last week where we held on for 80 minutes and then at the end we got tired and let into.
So my question to you both is, do you think that there is a coach that could come in and turn this season around and make playoffs?
No, we don't need one. We don't need a coach right now. I subscribe to John's thinking that it does not hurt DC United to have a caretaker manager. What tactics or implementation would we lose by not having Ben Olsen?
So so Ben Olsen's coaching staff stays, but just he leaves? Because I don't what difference would they really?
Yeah, so I'm glad we're talking about this because we actually just got a question from longtime listener Donald saying if this is the final nail in the coffin of the Olsen era, how does this finish up? Who takes over and what's the plan from there?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I think, Sam, you could go a couple ways, right? You could fire Olsen and you could just say, Chad Ashton, you're the next man up. We got 8 games to play, and let's see if you can do something different, get us in the playoffs, and we see what happens. And then at the end of the season, everybody's contract is reevaluated, and chances are you bring in a new coach who brings in his new staff. So that's one way. To me, you could also ship everybody out, and you could bring the Loudon crew in and be like, hey, man, your season ended early, so come on in, Ryan Martin, you're up. Let's go. See what you got.
Right.
Because that's...
Yeah, Ryan Martin's sitting at home right now.
What's he got to lose, right? And at the end of the day, in that situation... You get rid of the whole coaching staff, like you said, so it's not just the head, it's everybody. And then you're bringing in this staff. It's more experience for them. They have truly nothing to lose because they're going to go back to Loudon next year, and you're going to bring in a whole new staff anyway. It's like, and those guys have experience with Griffin Yao, Moses Nyman, Kevin Paredes. So there's some level of continuity there to begin with.
Donovan Pines,
yeah. I think you could go either of those ways. Joshua, what do you think?
First, I want to say we should not touch Zach Thornton. He's an MLS legend and a great goalkeeper coach. No matter what regime or if we stay on, he should always be DC United's goalkeeper for as long as he wants to. I think he's done a great job with our group. I think we always have great backup goalkeepers. Sites put on a show for a couple games there. But yeah, I think it depends on how ambitious the ownership is. They could pull some South American talent and find a really good coach. They could pull John Harkes up from USL 1, or maybe one of these USL Championship coaches that are doing really great. I mean,
I've heard longtime fans at tailgates and stuff back when we were allowed to tailgate tell us that they think John Harkes is probably the next head coach at DC United whenever it happens, right? And that was. We were 1-1, right? I mean, there was no clear writing on the wall at that point. So I think John Harkes is a good shout. But to me, I mean, you look at some of the coaches that are unemployed right now, just around the world and around this league.
They're getting poached.
That's what I'm thinking, man. Call Pochettino. Why not? Let him say no, right? I mean, what's the number? You tell us the number, Poch. We'll pay it.
Will we?
I don't know, but let him tell us, right? But then you come out and say, hey, look, we tried. My man wanted a ton of money. We couldn't pay him, but
at least
we had a conversation.
Let it leak.
Yeah. Think of that headline. Come on, DC United in talks with Pochettino to take over. Come on, we're selling papers that day.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would. I think John Harkes would be the best, honestly, because it's the same mold as Olsen, as former player, former legend of the club, but he's gotten that time. He's put in that work at a lower level to show that he can coach. He coaches a very I don't know. I don't watch every single USL League One game, but they seem like an average team. And
top of the table.
Greenville are normally top of the table, and I think they played in the final last season.
By a bit, too.
Yeah, and so...
I think Klinsman's available.
He seems to... No.
Every subscriber we have just left.
Just naming names, not suggesting hires.
Maybe that's the caretaker. I would watch for 8 games.
Yeah, that would definitely keep us glued to the TVs.
I don't know. Should we tag John Harkes in the tweet that goes out? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a permanent solution happening.
And I'll tell you guys, this is what's always been my challenge with the Olsen Out crew before tonight. Of you got to have a plan of someone to bring in. Yeah. And typically those seasons prior to this, we were still in the thick of a playoff race. You can easily make an argument that we're not anymore. I don't think we are. I think this season's over. So like I said earlier in the show, I'm fine with making a change right now, but I don't think you're making a change with someone in mind. I mean, obviously the examples I can use are the teams I follow, right? So like Leicester City a few years ago fired Claude Puel in the middle of the season. They paid Celtic some money to bring in Brendan Rodgers, and it was awesome because it got him a number of games with some players going into an off season, and then you hit the ground running the next year. I don't know who that is for DC United, and I don't know. I don't know how realistic a change like that to bring in the new, like, do you think that ownership on this team has a short list of head coaches right now?
That's what I was getting
a question
at.
for you, yeah.
So
I don't.
I mean, if they told Ben Olsen, if you don't make the playoffs, we're going to fire you.
They better.
And then we have had the string of games that we have had. You don't think they have a short list of coaches?
To me, I think they said something like that because you fire him at the end of the season, and then you've got time to do that homework.
Absolutely should still have people you're looking.
If I was
you
the
should
GM,
at least have a long
should
list.
they
at that
and
point.
do they are two very different questions.
You're right. But if Donald says you need to take several laps for whatever you just said. Anyways,
Probably the Leicester
probably
thing.
either Leicester or Klinsmann.
Probably
it was
the
probably
Klinsmann
Klinsmann.
They should. As a
Donald will
GM
enforce
in
that.
this league, it's too easy to move. We have so many mechanisms in this league, and so much changes so fast that you should have a list for not just the coach or the backup coach or the assistant coach, the goalkeeper coach, but you should have a list for every single player in the league.
Well,
and I don't know if they do because we keep calling Assad and players that are bounced around.
But apparently we have had a list in the past before. If you go back to when Total Soccer Show did a show at Audi Field with the Cooligans, they had Pablo Mara on, and he let slip that we'd been looking at Bruce Arena. And then he thought everyone in the crowd was crazy because he was like, you all knew that. And we were like, literally no one knew that. This was before he took the job with New England. So there have been lists in the past apparently that just they've decided to continue giving Olsen the chance. So I would be shocked if they at least not a long list of people that they maybe haven't contacted yet but they've really been looking at and they know they could probably pay their salary. They have to have some type of idea because this would not be the first time that they do.
Bruce Arena doesn't scream a whole lot of ambition to me. I mean, obviously he's beat us a number of times this year with New England, but I don't know. To me, that would be, I guess, if they're going to make a change, and after you have a guy in place for 10 freaking years, do something ambitious. Bring somebody young, bring somebody new in, bring somebody established in. Don't bring washed up people, please. I mean,
can't make the World
who's
Cup.
leading the league right now? Columbus with the former coach of Portland Timbers, who was fired from Portland. I would rather have that.
Hold on. Caleb Porter's on a totally different page than Bruce Arena.
How? I'll disagree with you. Bruce Arena has done it all in U.S. soccer. I think he's won college. He's won MLS multiple times with multiple teams. I would put him and Caleb Porter together. I would want someone like that. Someone who's either done it before, like an Oscar Pereira, who's...
Yes, Pereira and Porter I'm fine with.
Who
Arena,
fixed Orlando. That kind of group. Or I would want South American talent.
Yeah.
Gallardo or someone like that.
I don't even hate a John Hart.
Or John Hart.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
too.
I think the thing to me is we would want to see change, right? And Bruce Arena has coached this team before, and it obviously wasn't this team, and he would obviously bring much different tactics to this team than what he did years ago. But to me, why would you fire somebody and then bring in a little bit more of the same, right? I would rather see that 360 difference.
The same would be to fire Ben Olsen and hire Bobby Boswell, who has never coached him. That would be the same.
The press conferences would be just as much fun.
I would love that.
That would be interesting.
It'd be so much more fun.
Did you see his tweet the other night? This is totally an aside, and we got to laugh a little bit more. He said something. I think he's still living in Atlanta.
Yeah, he does.
He tweeted that he's like,
oh, I did see this.
A little kid ran into him or whatever. It's like, hey, or said something about Atlanta United, and he was like, I used to play for them, and the kid said, yeah, but not that much. Damn,
it's not wrong.
It's not wrong, but wow.
I'd love a Bobby Boswell back. That'd be fun. But yeah, just to get to that,
not on the field, but
no. I would love to see something brand new, and even Ian Harkes, who's been with the team, would be brand new, and that it's different coaching.
John Harkes.
Sorry, who did I say?
Ian.
Let's just bring Ian in. It's fine.
Playing in.
Let's just bring him in. You tweeted a gif of him earlier. He's on the mind.
That's right.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Even John Harkes would be, I guess, different enough, but I'd just love to see a 360. If we are abandoning what we're doing right now, I would love to just see a 360 and jump into something very different.
Yeah, and I think we started this segment on what did United fans have to look forward to. It's bleak, but I think it's that. It's what's next for this entire franchise to me. We've stepped quite far away from it, but a game was played tonight, which means we need to name a man of the match, which is really hard to do when they don't really do much on the field.
Well,
but
I have mine.
All right, Sam.
It's Griffin Yao.
Okay.
Because he tore it up on the right side. You're right. Our entire game plan was to just spit it outright and see what happens. And he was like tearing people up in the box. His crosses could have been a lot better. They weren't superb. But in that first half, that was like the bright spot, right? Is he was the only one who was really making positive moves forward.
Took some hits too, and
exactly. He drew a bunch of yellow cards. He drew like 2 or maybe 3 of the ones that were in the first half. So I think it wasn't a stellar performance. I think no one has stellar performance. But when I think back on this game, like watching Griffin Yao on the ball was my bright spot.
Yeah. For me, it was Jordi Reyna tonight. And I think, I don't know if it's just because I'm excited to see guys coming in fresh off for him. What was a bad experience in Vancouver, but coming in new and just not with the weight of this season and just everything that's gone wrong this year on him. He looks fresh. He looks excited out there. He put a couple moves on tonight. He's still not the most refined player in the world. Yeah, he did. But to me, he's just fun to watch and a bit of an attacking bright spot. So, Joshua, who you got?
John, and I'm going to say that you can attest for this. I said right after halftime that Russell Canals should be man of the match, and a bunch of people have made that joke now, so I won't. I was actually going to put him up for my man of the match. But
that's why I left you for last. You going to change it now? Because he's absolutely right. I can attest for him. He's like, Russ was the man of the match. I mean, he's probably going to be talked about more than any other player.
He had the biggest impact, I think,
But I have to agree with you with Reyna. Yao was really good in the first 45. I don't know why he came off for Gressel. I guess Gressel can't play in the midfield anymore, judging by Birnbaum's comments and that substitution.
You're shocking. I would have taken a sawed off before I would have taken Yao off.
Every day of the week. But Reyna is my new favorite player on this team because he's the only one that seems to actually care and try to do good things and actually somewhat accomplish them. He had 2 shots on goal tonight. None were on target, but none of the teams were, so you can't really fault him there. I think that was a really good pickup. We'll see next season, I guess, or I guess some of the 8 games we can count those. But I'm excited to have him grow into the squad.
Yeah, and I think that's all we can hope for right now is more and more players growing into the squad, and whether it's injuries or new acquisitions or international windows. God, I didn't miss them. Something's got to start to click with this team. Looking ahead, we typically do around the DMV in this segment, but the Loudoun season's over. The Spirit wrapped things up today with a win, which is awesome. But their season's over, and so now we are left with DC United for the rest of the season. They've got 8 games to play. It was supposed to be Tuesday. It's now this coming Wednesday. It was supposed to be in New Jersey. It's now in New York.
It was supposed to be at 7. It's now at 8.
It's now at 8. So I don't know, man. Maybe playing on the tiny pitch will help this team. It can't hurt it, right? So that's 8 p.m. on Wednesday. We play NYCFC. I don't even know where are NYCFC in the standings. They're 5th in the East, which is good for 12 points ahead of DC United. So we got that coming down the pike.
At this point, I'd take a 0-0 draw like we had last time, right?
Yeah.
I'd take that ugliness over 4-0 defeats, but we'll see what happens with DC United in the next week. Maybe they'll surprise us all and win. I don't know.
We'll be here regardless.
Yeah, and then we got a couple more games coming up this season that I thought were winnable, and now I'm second guessing everything. Atlanta's on the schedule again. Cincy's on the schedule, and then there's the games against Philly and Columbus, and we get New England for the 38th time this season as well. So still, I guess, a lot to play for this year, but it's going to be a fascinating week to see what happens. We'll be keeping you informed of any movements we hear of, and hopefully we'll have Michael Black back midweek, and I think
check us out. likely on Monday for the pregame press conference. We always live tweet that. We don't stream it, but we live tweet the highlights. You can find a bunch of other journalists too who are doing that, but we try to remain pretty consistent on that. So give us a follow. Join us back on Wednesday. John, you want to give ATP a shout?
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So our friends at Across the Pond, they've got a great deal going on. It's 5% off using the promo code podcast on a food order from them. They do takeout services, but they've also got indoor and outdoor seating. They got a TV out back now. I saw, and you can request games out there if they're available on streaming services. They're the home bar for the Patriots, and I guess I gotta watch the Giants play tomorrow for the Giants as well too. Weekends used to be fun, guys. I don't know. I thank God for Leicester City for me anyway. But yeah, no, Across the Pond, give them a shout. They're doing a lot of great things. They got a really cool NFL special right now too.
Oh yeah,
it's like Oktoberfest is part of it now. I saw, so we might have to check that out at some point.
So it will be tomorrow if you want to come.
Maybe
chat.
Signing autographs and on the whole thing.
That's right. So that's our friends at Across the Pond. Thank you for not letting me forget them, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joshua, you get the final word tonight.
Exciting times for DC United, not for the reasons you think, but because of so much change that will have to happen, or maybe the underdog story. And that's what I'm taking. That's why I'll be here next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for interacting with us and helping us through this.
Once this whole pandemic's over, I can't wait to meet all of you guys in person that have hung with us through this trying season.
We love chatting with you.
But thanks for spending part of your Saturday night with us. And we'll chat real soon. Joshua forgot to tell you to smash the like button.